Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For this tutorial we're going to have a look at different ways of blending and removing graphite to ensure we have a realistic, almost hyper-realistic look, as we're going to be doing that in our next portrait. That's going to be a challenge, so we're going to be practicing first before we get there. But I all know how much you love practice, so let's have a look and get on with it. So as you can see in front of me, I have my blending stumps, which, as you know, as you've followed me through all my tutorials, they are your next best friend. I have this Fantastix, which is supposed to be a brush tip. It's supposed to be for ink, but I have found that it's absolutely fantastic for blending. I have used it in one of my realistic drawings. You can see here how much graphite it delivers, even though I've put nothing down, and what's sitting in the actual tip itself. It's a very strange tip, very difficult to explain. It's not a brush, it's almost like a felt tip, I suppose one could say. Koki pen type of tip, but this is what it delivers. I washed it, I've tried to wash it to see what would happen, and nothing came out. It literally stayed exactly like it is, with this amount of graphite in it after I'd done the drawing I had done. So these are great, they really are worth it, they're cheap, they last longer in my view than what the actual blending stump does. However, it doesn't have a point like the blending stump has. So you can't do fine lines with it like you can with the blending stump. So that's the only drawback with it. But as far as blending goes, it's absolutely superb. So all I'm doing here is I'm just laying down some graphite. You can see I'm getting lines here, which is not really what I'm wanting at all. These lines here, I wonder if the camera is picking it up. It's not really what I want. I am now going lighter. I'm trying to do it a bit darker so that my camera can pick it up from my phone and you can actually see what I'm doing. So I'm just continuing up here, trying to get rid of those lines that have created. That is what happens if you go over, and especially with this blending stump of sorts. Well, I'm calling it a blending stump because that's what I'm using it for. It definitely lays on top of the last bit of graphite that you put down and creates a different sort of texture completely, which is not what you want. You want a smooth, even texture right the way across your portrait. Trying to lay it on next to it quite evenly. Right, so that is the Fantastix. It is, as I say, it's very, very well priced. It's made by Sukuniko in Japan and available at your local art shop. So the trusty blending stump, I was chatting to you just now about a fine line. That's what you get with the tip of it. This is an old one, so it's not perfectly formed point at all because I have used it. But I'm just going to lay down some graphite here from what is on my blending stump, and you can see that this is much easier to lay down. I'm not getting those lines that I've got at the top here with the Fantastix. So what we're doing is we want to lay down a very, very fine layer of graphite, and one way that you can do it, which I have discussed in one of my previous videos, there you can see I'm getting a line again when I go around. So this is very, very delicate to do, and this is where the practice comes in with regards to getting this very, very fine layer of graphite down, but getting it evenly down, not with blotches, which, as you can see, I'm getting now, and that's not what you want when you're doing a portrait. You know, doing the skin across the cheeks, across the nose, you want a very, very fine, even distribution of the graphite. So one of the things you can do is you can take your 2B and you can put down some graphite with the pencil. So you're using the pencil on its side, you're not using the point. You can lay a heavy layer of graphite down, and this also takes a little bit of practice, because what you are wanting to do is you're wanting to pick up graphite off of that and then lay it down in an even layer across the portrait. This is a textured paper, possibly for a hyper-realistic or more realistic portrait. You don't want to be using this sort of textured paper. I don't mind it. It's not something that bothers me at all. So these are with pencil. This is what is on my blending stump and what I'm picking up off of what I've laid down. Be very, very careful when you come back down into your little area that you are busy with, because whatever you've picked up on the blending stump is going to be a whole lot darker than what you have put down, what you've already managed to sort of put down on the paper. So what I'm doing is I'm building a very, very fine area here. I'm using different ways of getting this graphite onto the paper in an even way. You want it as even as possible, and I'll show you in a minute why. We're going to be doing skin texture, and although it already appears that I do have quite a bit of texture on here from the paper, we're going to be going even deeper into what we are trying to achieve. Right, so that is with blending stump. Blending stump, Fantastix. Now we're going to try with one of these brushes. And the reason why I've pulled out one of these brushes is because I want to show you what sort of blending one can get using that instead of what we've just used. So I'm laying down very, very fine 2B graphite. This is Staedtler, Mars Lumograph graphite pencils, and I'm laying it down across the paper as evenly as I can. You can see that the texture of the paper is picking it up, and some of the areas have got a slight little darker bit to it, but that's fine. We're going to blend it with one of these brushes in a minute and see what effect we get. So I just want to cover a bit of an area so that we can get a really good idea of what this does. So it's a holiday here, so please forgive the noises in the background. We have Women's Day. I'm not sure how many countries celebrate Women's Day today, but that's what we are celebrating today. So everybody's on leave and enjoying the day. So I bought these two brushes, and I love the tips of these. If you can see, they're cut off, and they're quite thick and sort of cut off. They're unlike normal brushes that I've bought, where the tip sort of tapers, and like a normal sort of paintbrush. And I'm dying to try them. So this is the first time I'm trying them for blending. Trying the smaller one. It is a Black Silver Dynasty size 4. So I just want to see you all look at that. Now that's the sort of effect that you want. This is going to be good. So we are going for this sort of blending for our skin textures. We want an even, it's not very even, but that's possibly because I haven't done any practice with this brush whatsoever. I'm going to try the bigger one because I am doing quite a big area. And let's see, I'm using it on its side, so I'm using it with the most area of the cutoff. Little tiny circles. And that is looking absolutely gorgeous. So even smaller circles, because we don't want any overlap or texture. We just want a smooth graphite base to work on. And I'm going to have to practice this because I can already see that it's not even. So look at what I'm getting here. I'm just hoping that the camera can pick this up. The texture of the paper is giving me little white paws, if for want of a better word. If we were to call the skin. So this is going to take a long time, but if we're moving towards hyper-realistic drawings, then this is what we are in for. We are in for time-consuming, but very, very meditative blending and drawing. And this is absolutely fabulous. I am so pleased that I have invested in these two brushes because I think that this is gorgeous. So what is interesting is the smaller brush that I first put down in this side here has created quite a deep dark blend, whereas this one seems to be quite smooth. So what we'll do is we're going to carry on working on this paper, and then I think what I'm going to do is in the next tutorial we'll try it on a smoother paper, and that'll be for you to decide which you prefer, because as I said to you in the very, very beginning of all of these tutorials, paper is a very, very personal thing. And while I do love texture, I am really enjoying this texture, for hyper-realistic drawings, if that's what you're moving towards, which is what I'm moving towards, I'm able to get them quite easily in charcoal, but graphite is a different story. You would possibly want to move to a smooth paper, like a Bristol paper or a Kansan 1557. So I'm just doing a bit more blending, filling this area, making sure I get a smooth look. I'm going to take this same blending technique over the blending stump, and let's see if it ends up being a bit faster in terms of time and blending. Now that is not a smooth graphite blend. You can see that there's a lot of blotches in it. So let me find a piece of paper towel, take off the excess. Nothing has really come off. And let's see what happens when we blend this blending stump. Okay, I don't see that as being very successful at all. Far prefer this. What I'm not enjoying about this is all the blotches that I have ended up with. So that is something that either the paper is creating, or I've created it, but we'll only find that out when we try it on the very, very smooth paper in the next tutorial. We'll compare it. So I have got gorgeous texture here. I've got fine little white, what let's call them pores, little pores that are showing here. I'm going to take the smaller brush. Sorry, that is not the one that I was using. Where are you? And I'm just going to go back over it again and see what I get. Oh, this brush is amazing. This will take much, much longer, but this brush definitely blends superbly. I mean, look at that. I've already got a different, completely different graphite look there. Going round and round in tiny little circles. So this is the downside of hyper-realistic drawing. However, having said that, you will work in very, very small sections because it does take hours to create a hyper-realistic drawing. And once you start on this, you'll be hooked. There's no two ways about it. So this little brush is superb, absolutely superb. This brush here I bought for watercolor, and you can see I've ruined it. I use it to lift watercolor, so now I use it for everything but watercolor. And let's see what it does here. Okay, that's actually blending into that little bit of white texture that I had before from that other brush. So that's superb. If you wanted to get rid of all those little tiny white textures from the paper that look like, what I think look like pores, you know, in the skin, you can go over it with a soft watercolor brush, and it is creating more depth to the graphite too. So this is a 2B, the Staedtler 2B, Mars Lumograph graphite pencil that I'm doing here. What was on the blending stuff and the Fantastix is also Staedtler product, but I don't know which pencil it is because I use those blending tools for every area of the actual portrait, wherever I am, starting off as I always do with a 2H, and then moving right down to the 9B, and then across to the black, Lumograph black, which gives you your deepest darks. So this is very interesting because I appear to be managing a smoother blend, which is what one wants. Very, very nice indeed. So that's almost filled in all of those little white areas of the paper. You can see the difference here. It's a lot of white areas. Let's see what it does here. Almost seems to be lifting it out. Right, so this is definitely the answer. Is laying down graphite first and then going over it with a brush. I just want to see what happens here. Sorry, I just can't help myself. I always have to test everything. Okay, so that is too dark. Unless you were doing something textured, that does move out beautifully. You can see how much that is moving out. So if we were to, let's do part of an eye. oh, this has got to be the worst eye I've ever drawn. What's great about graphite though is that you can fix it. So let's have a look and see what we can do here. Let's see. So let's start off with this little baby. I'm liking that very, very much. You see what happens? You can make the biggest eyeball horror and blend the horror into something that sort of looks like something. So that's why I say don't ever be frightened of trying out anything or of just going for it. I'm not. It doesn't really bother me that this is not perfect. I know that I can draw better than this, and that's exactly what you should be focusing on. And within my tutorials, I don't mind making lapses because I'm human. And like I said to you, it's all about the process and the journey. So the one thing I'm not enjoying is that it's still giving me quite hard lines, whereas with the blender, oh, this is not a great blender. With the blender, you can blend out those hard lines. So that's quite interesting because we will use that on other areas of the portrait, unless of course I'm not using it very well. Get rid of that horror line at the bottom here. We almost have something acceptable. But this is what it's all about. So perhaps instead of me drawing it as I did, which was a bit hectic, perhaps I should lay it down on its side. And then we can see what happens with those two brushes that I bought. So let's see what they... I'm going to use the bigger one at the top. Yes, I think I need to practice this quite a bit because it feels really strange, and that's purely because I'm so used to blending stumps. That is too big. So I'm going to go to the smaller one. It's far more manageable and controllable. But it does give you a really nice blend. So it doesn't really carry much. As you can see, it doesn't really carry much in the brushes, you know, like a blending stump does. But it is very, very nice. Right, so I'm going to practice that. I'm definitely going to be practicing that and get back to you guys with some tips and that on it, because it really does have a lot of potential. Okay, so let's get back to, I'm digressing here horribly with this. Let's get back to what I was working on. So what we're looking for here is we're looking for a beautifully blended area that we can easily remove, and I'm going to use this Tombow. I just want to see what it does for those little fine lines that one gets. I'm just wondering if I shouldn't perhaps cut it with my craft knife without cutting my finger off. Trying to get a nice point here. Right, let's have a look and see. So we've managed to get the pores, you can see, and now we want to get those creases that you see. Yes, that does do it. That is lovely. Right, so we want to get those creases that you see, you know, particularly those creases that you see around the eye that come off near the tear duct. So we are getting somewhere. This is perfect. This is exactly what we're looking for. And then we also want to be able to use our blending stump, and I'm not quite sure which end because this one is so, there we go. We've done it. Because you also get those blotches that people have, or even freckles. This is good for freckles. Look at that, and you can put it, you can lay it down as hard as you like, or as lightly as you like. That's fantastic. Look at that. We definitely are getting somewhere. Now, I want to see with a 2H, if we were to put a very, 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 very slight line around it as a shadow. Yep, there we go. Absolutely fabulous. So this is what we're going to be doing. And I'm not sure how long this video is. I actually didn't time how long I've been messing around here for. But this is something that we are going to pursue. And so I'll get a shadow underneath little white lines. I just want to see here, because I know you get these near the eye. We're getting beautifully fine lines. This is what we want, and this is what we want to be practicing. So this is this Tombow. I spoke about it in the last tutorial. It is doesn't tell you what size it is, which is a great pity. Oh, here we are, 2.5 by 5 millimeter ultra fine. So I've basically trimmed that, not very well, and it is allowing me to get these long, thin, fine lines like I did for the hair on the last tutorial, because we're going to be doing very, very fine work. And the other material that I'm going to be buying, art supply I'm going to be buying, is a pencil eraser, which you can apparently sharpen to a very, very fine point, so that we can get these very, very fine hairs that you see that people have, yeah, well, basically all over your face you have very, very fine hairs. But this is what we're going to be doing. I hope you get excited. This is on Unsplash. I'll be printing this off, and we're going to be working. Here are those little fine hairs that I'm talking about that you can see. This is what we're going to be working on. I've deliberately chosen this photograph because of all the detail that we've got in it. But there are those fine lines. There are those pores that we've just been working on. Little white highlights across the eye. But this is what we're going to be working on. So do get excited, and do go and buy yourself a couple of brushes. These are found right now to be the most successful. This is a Kum. You don't have to buy, it's a cat's tongue. You don't have to buy this exact brush. These are expensive Kum. They're meant for watercolor, and they are supposed to go back to their original shape, but you can see that this one I've ruined, and that's why I'm using it. These are Black Silver Dynasty. These are affordable. Yes, so get excited, because this is what we're going to be going into. As far as the Tombows go, we have got one that is a 2.3 round ultra fine, and we have this one that is a 2.5 by 5 millimeter ultra fine. So I'll put it in the description, and let's have some fun in the next video. Please subscribe to my channel if you've enjoyed this, and hit like. It helps me keep going. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Bye.